channel. Hey, it's FCA, and today I'm going to talk about, you might notice by my voice, I just woke up a little bit ago. All I did was grab a milkshake and brush my hair, but I woke up and I was like still kind of feeling sleepy or whatever, and I was like, looking for something to watch. And I thought, oh, that Netflix documentary, A Toxic Love Triangle, is supposed to drop or dropped recently. And so I watched it. So that is what we are talking about today. The Netflix documentary, A Toxic Love Story. I just watched it. I don't have any additional follow-up information. And so, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to be talking about all the stuffs. So let's get into it. So what we have is this story out of Texas. I got some questions, Texas. Of course, I have questions about where I live in Ohio, too. Have you seen the psychos here? Anywho, we have this relationship between a man named Ian and a woman named Angela. It was a fairy tale. They met up. They went to Disney because he loved Disney. Ian was a Disney adult, it seems. And they went out and they fell in love. They got engaged very shortly after meeting. In fact, they were only together a couple months before they were married and going to have a child together. I immediately got red flags. Okay, the alarms are blaring because we are just coming off in the true crime documentary series world. We are just coming off the heels of Maternal Instincts. You know, where that Taylor Parker psycho was doing psychotic things and lying about stuff. And I'm already ready. I'm like, something's gonna be a lie here. I don't know what's wrong with Angela, but I'm ready for it. And it came. It exactly came. It wasn't much of a twist. That Angela lied about her pregnancy. She wasn't pregnant with twins. Ian and his best friend, and we get a lot of perspective from the best friend, and we're going to touch on the best friend, Leslie, as well. So we have Angela and Leslie and Ian finding fake pregnancy tests, and they have to take it all to the police. Now, why do they have to go to the police about a fake pregnancy? It's not moral. It's not sane. But why? Because leading up to that, finding out the pregnancy and all the stuff was fake, is that we had Angela getting harassed by Ian's ex-girlfriend, Michelle. We see Michelle very early on. And that struck me as weird, okay, because in all of the other documentaries, whenever you have somebody who's a problem, they don't usually have that person, like they don't have the attacker, the perpetrator early. So Michelle coming up as early as she did to make comments in the documentary struck me as weird. I was like, oh, okay, I'm like, well, maybe she's already out of jail, or maybe she's still in custody, because she's in a very neutral kind of room, but she was wearing regular clothes. And when Mackenzie Shirilla did her Netflix interview, she was, of course, in a jail outfit, although she was dolled up to the nines, with her face and hair. But I still thought that was, but Mackenzie, like either the perpetrator or person doesn't make an appearance at all in the documentary, like they're not speaking for themselves, you always see them on the outside, or they come up, like with Mackenzie, later into the interview, like that's an ending point. So there was that. But she had admitted to sending some emails to Ian and Angela. And it turns out that there were thousands of emails threatening her, of Michelle threatening Angela, saying that she was out to get her, it was very much portraying Michelle being a crazy ex-girlfriend, jealous ex-girlfriend who couldn't stand seeing Ian move on with somebody else, especially so quickly, because there was a very short time frame of only a few weeks, I believe, between Michelle and Angela. And like I said, there was only a couple months with Angela and Ian getting pregnant, married, etc. So there's all these threats. Michelle has sent thousands of emails daily, sending threatening messages, even going so far as to go on Craigslist and hire a person to do vicious rapes. If you saw the Banfield case where Banfield had lured somebody from a vet site to come on and like lure them to set them up as a fall guy and then also killed them and his wife, that was giving the vibes. She's going on Craigslist, going to like the personal section or the fantasy section and sending somebody to do a violent sexual act against Angela. And Angela had reported a physical attack. She had pictures of her being attacked and having bruises on her neck and everything. Except it's all fake. Angela has done this. And this is why the best friend Leslie and Ian finding the pregnancy test comes into play. Because Angela has faked the whole thing. She's sending herself these crazy emails because she wants to really sever ties, or she really wants to be the victim. There is something there, very Taylor Parker-esque, of attention, whatever it is that she was trying to end game. And so she gets arrested. Michelle gets arrested. She says, yeah, I sent some emails. And so I was like, okay, she admitted to it. She sent the emails. She gets arrested. She's arrested for 88 days. In that 88 days, Angela also gets arrested. Because Ian, like I said, he's found out that the pregnancy is fake. That Angela faked a pregnancy. That like on the 10th, one of the early photos on Instagram is, or not Instagram, on Google, is the exact same sonogram that she gave to him, that Angela gave Ian. And then we also have that all of her doctor appointments are fake. And in the whole documentary, when we're seeing Angela, because there's body cam footage of when she's getting attacked, when they're getting harassment, people stalking around their house, etc. She doesn't get any bigger at any time. I don't know how far along pregnant she was supposed to be at that time, but she doesn't look far enough along for like sonograms. And because it had been there for a while, but it was still kind of early in the pregnancy, so maybe she just wasn't showing it. She was a slimmer girl, but there was no starting bump or anything. There's that. At least she didn't order a bunch of stuff like Taylor Parker to make it look like she was pregnant. But it was all fake. Well, then there's a history. We go back, and Angela had previously, with another relationship, this guy named Jason, she had lied about having cancer. And the people in his circle were a lot more suspicious than the people who were in Wade's circle, at least initially. They had their suspicions really early on. They called, the one friend called and was like, hey, can you give me an update on this person? Like, I'm supposed to be picking them up or meeting them, but I don't know when they're getting out or getting done. Can you, like, give me a time or something? And they're like, Angela's not a patient of ours. And Angela had posted pictures, like first person perspective pictures of her getting chemo drips. But Jason was suspicious because why wasn't he allowed to go to any appointments with her? And all of these photos that she's posting are first person perspective. Like, she picked up her phone and took a photo. She's not in them. She doesn't have a port. And they find him, Jason, and his female best friend, or close female friend, find tubing and a bunch of fake stuff. And when they go through and do their own Google search, they find that not early on, but 10 plus pages into the Google search for images, there is the exact same chemo drip image from somebody who is actually suffering. Jason's livid. So he gets all of his friends and family together, and when Angela comes home one day, everyone's sitting there and she's like, hi everybody. And they're like, take off the wig. We know that you have hair under there. Because the female best friend of Jason, she had noticed the hair under the cap. Because she was always wearing like one of those caps to keep your head cold. When patients who go through chemo, they lose their hair. Or often do. And they're like, show us your port. She's like, what? Show us your port for your chemo drip. Show us the port. Like, take off your sweater, take off your jacket, show us your port. We want to see the thing on your chest. We want to see the port. And she's like, what is wrong with you? And Jason also found out that she lied about her job. So Angela has a past and a history of lying about important things. So it's not above her to lie about somebody coming in and attempting to R-word her. She's not above lying about a pregnancy to try to make her closer to this guy who maybe still has a little bit of lingering feelings for his ex Michelle. She lied about cancer. She lied about her job. She said that she was some kind of like an attorney or something in that industry because Jason was also in that. And she's like, no, I really am. They're like, no, show us the port. You're lying. We know you don't have this job. And so she leaves because she doesn't have a choice. She's called out. She's a liar. She's found out in that community. So then she finds Ian. Well, Ian also seems to be an Angela victim, lying about this pregnancy, lying about her job that she had with him, and like lying about this attack. And it's like, well, where did the handprints? Because the cops show up and they have photos. She has, she has her smeared makeup. She has bruising. She's hurt. And that's what gave the police in Anaheim the ability to arrest Michelle to begin with, is because, okay, here is proof of a physical assault that was brought on by Michelle. Great. And Leslie, she's sitting there saying the betrayal, the hurt, she felt so bad for herself. She felt so bad for Ian. Like, this person is faking, harassment and stalking and all the other stuff is a horrible thing to experience, and she's faking it for what? For what end does she hope to achieve? She was already married to Ian, and then they were pregnant, or lied about being pregnant. So, like, what did she want? She moved into the condo where Michelle and Ian used to live because Michelle had left. Or was she forced out? The answer is obviously yes. Because all right, we're getting to the tent, Angela's doing all this stuff. But then I look at the time. There's a whole other half of this documentary to go. I thought that I'd caught the red flags. I was like, oh, I already know where this twist is. I thought I was ready, but I wasn't. I was like, oh, hold on. Ooh. A forensic criminal investigator comes on, and he said it seemed like a pretty clear rap case. Michelle was let out because it turned out that Angela was behind this and had framed Michelle. Michelle's going through, like, this poor woman, Michelle's just trying to move on with her life. She lost her condo, and she had said in the documentary that she had put all of her life savings into buying this condo for her and Ian. And then she is the one not in the condo. And then you have this psycho, Angela, like, getting her arrested under false pretenses. But then I was like, well, hold on. She had admitted early on. She said that she was the one who sent the emails in the body cam. She says, yeah, I sent those emails. But there's a separation. She had sent 2 angry emails to Ian saying that the truth will come out and that God's law is above all law, including man's. And it turns out that Michelle is very, not only ethical, but also very, in her words, wholesome. She grew up pretty sheltered and religious. She's one of those people who never smoked, never did drugs, never tried drugs. She never did any physical intimacy experimenting, because she was very vanilla. And she didn't start drinking until she was actually 21. The kind of person who doesn't hit, yeah, I'm 18, until she was actually 18. Cool. But what about these emails? Well, she sent those too, as I mentioned. All of the other emails, and they were able to track her email from those first 2 emails, because she said, yeah, I sent those. Because as it turns out, and the criminal investigator, he goes, something wasn't adding up. There was too much of Ian in all of the interactions between Angela and the cops coming over. Ian was leading the charge. Ian was pointing things out. Ian corrected things that Angela said. And the thing that stood out the most to the investigator was when he was like, yeah, here's this guy who she tried to contact to bring over here, Michelle. And on his own computer, he was able to instantly bring up the guy, Rick. Now, Rick was anonymous, but he did make a voiceover kind of appearance in the show. And he did mention that he had went over to the condo, but was frightened off by some things not adding up. And the way Ian was able to instantly go and like click and go, yeah, here's the guy who she sent over based on like the things we were getting. And Rick had said that before he did anything, he contacted Lilith, is the name that they used, who was sending the emails, who was setting up the Craigslist stuff. He said to the Lilith account, I need a voice confirmation that we're doing this and that it's okay to do this. Like, you need to call me. I need to hear you. Which, if you watch the Banfield case and you're a person who's going on Craigslist looking for your fantasies, voice confirmation at a minimum, and record it, okay? Keep yourself legally protected. And it was Angela, of course, who called and said, hey, it's Lily. Yeah, come on over, confirming our event at 8. And see, he was like, okay. It was from a similar number thing, confirmed the account, confirmed the time and the date, and it was a woman's voice. And he goes, so there we were. But it wasn't Michelle, as we already established. But it seems, according to the criminal investigator, that it wasn't Angela alone. Because he said that the odds of being able to go on Craigslist and be able to instantaneously find the person who was sent to your house to do this R-word fantasy is like 1 in a million, because Craigslist has a lot of anonymity behind it. There are thousands, apparently, of people who have some interests. So for him to be able to find the exact person right away, red flag. So then Michelle talks more about how she met Ian, that they had met up. He said that she was so pretty through an online dating site. They met up and they went on a date to Disney. As I mentioned, Ian is a Disney adult. And he had mentioned that Belle was his favorite princess. And he said that Michelle looked and was similar to Belle, that he wanted her to be his Belle. And so Michelle keeps on describing her relationship with Ian, that it started out sweet, but became more and more controlling. He had put security cameras in the condo, inside the kitchen and living room and stuff like that. He was tracking her on her phone. Whenever she had, like, she went to work, she went to school, she went home. And whenever she went anywhere else, he's calling her, he's texting her incessantly. Where are you? What are you doing? Why aren't you here? Why are you supposed to be here? What are you doing? And all of the makings of a possessive, manipulative psychopath. And she said that it was getting worse and worse and worse, because he also would say things like he had these fantasies, and she wasn't comfortable with these fantasies. And she said that this is when they were still in the dating phase, and she had said she wasn't comfortable, that maybe they weren't compatible. But then she was like kind of in love with him. He was sweet, and he had this nice, wholesome, or seemingly wholesome side to him that she liked. And she thought, okay, you know what? People have their interests. Maybe if I just do this thing this one time, it'll scratch his itch, in her words, and he'll be done. And it'll, okay. But she hated it. I know they say you're not supposed to yuck somebody's yum, but if that's not your yum, you can yuck it for yourself. And it came off to me that Ian didn't respect that she wasn't into it. When you're doing things, you're supposed to like those things as a couple together. And, you know, you let your freak flags fly together. But he was pushing and insistent and overbearing about it. And she felt dirty, used, and that she, in her words, she said that a beautiful part of her was killed. And he was more and more possessive and controlling and psychotic. And I think that the wholesome, good girl thing is what attracted him to Michelle, because for someone like Ian, that's somebody who's controllable, somebody who you can influence. And she didn't go to the police because of the abusive, harassment, and aggressive things that he had done to her, because he was a U.S. Marshal. And she felt like he would be protected by the Blue Shield, and that they wouldn't actually believe her. The criminal investigator who was on this case, he said that broke his heart, that it disgusts him that we have created a world and a system where people who deserve justice can't get it because they're afraid that, cops are going to protect cops. And he goes, it's not supposed to be like that. Nobody should be able to escape justice. And it was very emotional when she said that when the cop believed her because her story was crazy, it was relief. And, you could feel how upsetting that was, where you're nervous and you're scared. You have this psycho who sent you to jail and you didn't actually do any of the things you were accused of. And of course, a lot of your life is ruined, or ruined to a point, because you can't go to work when you're in jail. So she's losing her job. She can't go to school to get her degree. And of course, she's upset and distraught because she's locked up and she didn't do anything. It was such a confirmation for her that she couldn't do anything to Ian. But when the cop believed her and that he was going to investigate going after Ian, she said that it felt like for the first time she was getting to go after him, and it was justified. Sorry, I had to collect myself. And so now I'm anti-Ian. Okay, Ian is not Wade Griffin from the Taylor Parker situation. I believe that Wade Griffin was trying to live a simple country life and was either willfully ignorant or just was genuinely bamboozled by Taylor. Ian is a psychotic manipulator along with the rest of the psychos that we talk about in these Netflix documentaries. And then it occurred to me, I don't remember this being brought up. It may have been, but it clicked to me. I was like, yeah. And plus, isn't it weird in all the body cam footage how it's Ian who's able to, because they said that he led the charge and he was able to bring up the Craigslist person, all that. But it was also weird that he was able to say exact times, dates, like, yeah, this email was sent this date, this email was sent this date, and say them verbatim. You know these emails awfully well, Ian. That happened before he did all this stuff to send her to jail. She was in jail for 3 months before she was let out. And she said, you don't really understand how grateful you should be for your freedom until it's taken away. And that's when the Belle thing came to my mind. When Ian had told Michelle that Belle was his favorite, and she reminded me, and she does, she has the beautiful brown hair, she's a beautiful woman. And it was like, Belle was held captive by a beast. She gave up her freedom, and the one thing that she craved and loved was wanting to be free, free from society, free from judgment, free from restrictions. And then she ended up in a very restrictive, freedomless situation with a nutcase beast. And I just thought that was weird that one of arguably the most captive, like prisoner princesses in the Disney lineup, that's your favorite? But I don't think what he understood is that the beast in Beauty and the Beast is one, like an 11 or 12-year-old when you do the math, who got, preteen, teenager, spoiled kid who got turned into a beast and has been isolated for years and hasn't been well socialized. I'm wondering where the parents are in that situation too. But anyway, and Belle is a strong, powerful intellectual who eventually gets her own freedom. And Lilith, the account that they used, and I thought this was so touching of Michelle to say that Lilith rejected the rules and restrictions of Adam and Eden. That there was a rejection of God. Not God himself, but of rules and male authority. And she turned all of that away for her own freedom. And she said that it was very fitting. She goes, I got my freedom. And Ian got sentenced to prison for 10 years. he may have gotten his vengeance or whatever he was after with Michelle, but he didn't get Michelle, and it all came back to him tenfold. Karma comes back. What you put into the universe is going to give back to you multiplied. And he got it. And so now he's restricted, doesn't have control over anything or anybody. All of his credentials and all of his stuff is restricted. And he doesn't get to go to Disney. He lived 10 minutes from Disney in that condo so that they could go multiple times a week. Now he's not going to go for at least a decade. And that's, I believe, his minimum sentence. He might get more. And, but Michelle, she got help. She found love. And they ended, I'm sorry, I'm gonna cry. This is so cute. They ended the documentary with her talking to her daughter and saying cutesy, sweet little things. I love you, I miss you, kissies. It was really nice to see somebody good get a good ending. She's moved away, she's doing better, and that she is stronger and knows she can overcome things. And I imagine there's so many little things in her life that she just lets go, where she's like, you know what? After everything else, this thing is not a big deal, and we're not going to worry. And as far as Angela goes, I hope she gets help. She did get convicted for her crime. She pled guilty to her part in it. It seems like she was also manipulated, and she just loves to be a victim. Maybe it's some form of Munchausen, something like that. But I hope that she gets some therapy and learns that she can be a happy person without being the victim, that she doesn't need that kind of attention. And so she doesn't fall to the hands of another Ian that gets, like, that's 2 women that he has gotten put in jail. I mean, Angela did stuff to herself, of course, but I'm not trying to diminish her role in things. But I think a lot of as far as the stalking thing with the Michelle, I think a lot of that was manipulated and influenced by Ian. And Leslie, well, that poor thing, I hope she gets therapy too. She believes Ian is innocent, that Michelle is a psychotic, controlling person, and that Angela is a serial liar who does terrible things like this. And she swears up and down the East Coast that she's not in love with Ian, that they are just friends, that they are just platonic friends. And maybe that's true, but she refuses to believe that Ian is responsible and thinks that it's wrong that he was locked up. Okay. So that is the synopsis and my opinions of Toxic Love Triangle. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you, like, what do you think? Do you think that my Bell analysis and stuff, like, do you agree with that? Were there any things that you noticed? Like, watch the documentary. Is there anything where you were like, oh, here's an early red flag. Here's something that I thought was odd here. And I know that I didn't bring up every single little detail. It was just an overview going through it and throwing in my opinions and observations as we went along. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a good weekend. I'm going to try to put this up as soon as possible. This is Saturday, the 25th of July. And I'm going to try to get this up and another video up as soon as possible. All right? Bye, my lovely humans.